My own son looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Dad, you don't remember things anymore." At first, I thought he was worried about me. Then I found out he had already been telling my family, my neighbors, and even my bank that I had dementia. That was the moment I realized I wasn't losing my memory. I was losing my life. Before I tell you what happened, if you enjoy emotional stories about family betrayal and justice, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to Family Betrayal. And one more thing, the faces, photos, and background scenes you see are only visual illustrations to help tell the story. They aren't real people from my life. I'm David. I'm 68 years old, retired, and until 2 years ago, I believed my son Eric was the one person who would always have my back. After my wife passed away, he started visiting almost every day. He brought groceries, fixed little things around the house, and insisted on driving me to appointments. I thought I was lucky. Then little things started happening. Friends would call and ask if I was feeling confused. My church pastor gently asked whether I wanted someone to help manage my finances. Even my next-door neighbor started speaking to me slowly, like I couldn't understand normal conversation. I kept wondering, why is everyone treating me like I'm sick? One afternoon, I walked into the bank to withdraw money for a new roof. The teller smiled politely, disappeared into an office, and returned with the manager. "Mr. Collins," she said carefully, "we'd like to contact your son before approving any large withdrawals." My heart nearly stopped. "My son? What?" She looked uncomfortable. "We were told you've been experiencing memory problems." I left without saying another word. That night I confronted Eric. He didn't deny it. Instead, he sighed and said, "Dad, I'm only protecting you." "Protecting me? From what?" He simply smiled and said, "You won't remember this conversation tomorrow anyway." For the first time in my life, I was afraid of my own son. I had no idea he was already setting something much bigger into motion. And within a week, strangers would be deciding whether I was still capable of controlling my own life. I barely slept that night. I kept replaying Eric's words in my head. "You won't remember this conversation tomorrow anyway." It wasn't concern. It was confidence. Somehow, he believed everyone would believe him instead of me. 3 days later, a thick envelope arrived in my mailbox. Inside was a notice from the county court. Eric had filed a petition asking a judge to appoint him as my legal guardian because he claimed I was mentally incompetent. My hands started shaking. If he won, he could control my bank accounts, my house, my retirement savings, every decision I made. On paper, I would still be alive. In reality, my life would belong to him. When I called him, he answered like nothing was wrong. "Dad, don't fight this. It'll be easier for everyone." "Easier for who?" I asked. He went silent for a moment before saying, "You need someone to make decisions now." I hung up without another word. The next morning, I scheduled an appointment with my family doctor, the same physician I'd trusted for almost 20 years. After a long memory evaluation, problem-solving tests, and a full examination, he leaned back with a smile. "David," he said, "your memory is perfectly normal for your age. I see absolutely no evidence of dementia." I felt relief for about 5 seconds. Then he frowned. "Has someone been telling people otherwise?" I nodded. He slowly removed his glasses and said something I'll never forget. "If that's true, someone may be trying to take away your legal rights." That sentence hit me harder than anything Eric had ever said. I immediately hired an attorney named Karen. She listened without interrupting, flipping through the court papers Eric had filed. When she finished reading, she looked me in the eye. "Your son has collected statements from relatives claiming you've become confused. If we don't dismantle this story, the judge could believe him." I couldn't understand it. My own sister had signed one of those statements. 2 cousins had signed others. People I'd spent holidays with suddenly believed I was slipping away. Karen asked one question that chilled me. "Has your son had access to your financial records recently?" The answer was yes. She quietly closed the file and whispered, "Then we need to find out what he's really after." As we started digging through my accounts, we uncovered something neither of us expected, and the closer we looked, the more it became clear that Eric's lie wasn't the worst thing he had done. Karen hired a forensic accountant to go through every bank statement, canceled check, and online transaction from the past year. I thought we'd find a few suspicious withdrawals. Instead, we uncovered a pattern that made my stomach turn. While pretending to help me pay my bills, Eric had quietly transferred thousands of dollars into accounts I didn't recognize. The amounts were small enough that I hadn't noticed them individually, $600 here, $1,200 there, another $950 a few weeks later. Added together, it came to nearly $48,000. I sat there staring at the paperwork, wondering how I'd missed it. Then I realized the truth. I hadn't trusted the wrong stranger. I'd trusted my own son. Karen immediately subpoenaed phone records, emails, and financial documents. What came back was even worse. Weeks before filing for guardianship, Eric had been emailing a real estate agent about listing my house. In one message he wrote, "Once the court approves everything, the sale should be quick." He hadn't been planning to take care of me. He'd been planning my financial funeral. That night, I couldn't stop crying. Not because of the money. I could earn more money. But I only had one son, and I couldn't replace him. Have you ever loved someone so much that you ignored every warning sign because admitting the truth hurt too much? The hearing arrived sooner than I expected. Eric walked into the courtroom wearing an expensive suit, smiling at relatives who had come to support him. They looked at me with pity, as if I were already fading away. Karen leaned over and whispered, "Stay calm. Let him keep talking." One witness after another repeated Eric's story. They claimed I'd forgotten birthdays, misplaced my keys, and repeated conversations. Listening to them describe me felt like attending my own funeral while I was still alive. Then Karen stood. She presented my doctor's evaluation, my financial records, and the evidence of the missing money. I watched Eric's confidence fade for the first time. Still, the judge remained expressionless. Finally, he folded his hands, looked directly at Eric, and said, "Before I make my decision, I have one question for you." The courtroom fell completely silent. Eric smiled, convinced he had already won. He had no idea that the next 30 seconds were about to destroy every lie he had built and change our family forever. The judge looked directly at Eric and asked, "If your father has been suffering from dementia for as long as you claim, can you tell me the exact date he was diagnosed, the name of the doctor who diagnosed him, and where he received treatment?" Eric blinked. For the first time since walking into that courtroom, he looked scared. He cleared his throat and glanced toward his attorney, hoping someone would rescue him. I don't remember the doctor's name." The judge didn't say a word. "And the diagnosis date?" he asked. Eric swallowed hard. "I'm not exactly sure." The silence that followed felt heavier than anything I'd ever experienced. Karen stood up and handed the judge a certified letter from my physician. It confirmed I had never been diagnosed with dementia, had passed every cognitive evaluation, and was fully capable of managing my own affairs. Then came the final piece. The forensic accountant testified that Eric had transferred nearly $48,000 from my accounts, while claiming he was simply helping me pay my bills. The emails discussing the sale of my house before any court decision were displayed as evidence. I watched every relative who had believed him slowly lower their heads. My sister started crying. She whispered, "David, I'm so sorry." I couldn't even answer her. The betrayal had cut too deep. The judge denied Eric's guardianship petition immediately. Then he referred the financial evidence to the appropriate authorities for further investigation. Eric tried to explain. He said he was only trying to protect me. The judge interrupted him. "No, you were trying to control a man who trusted you." Those words echoed through the courtroom. A few months later, I recovered most of the missing money through legal action. I updated my will, moved my finances to a trusted professional, and rebuilt my life one day at a time. Eric called me several times after everything fell apart. I never answered. Some people think the hardest part of betrayal is losing money. They're wrong. The hardest part is realizing the person you loved most was willing to erase your dignity for their own gain. Today, I still live in the same house. I drink coffee on the same front porch every morning. My memory is just fine, but I no longer confuse love with blind trust. If this story taught me anything, it's that the truth doesn't always speak the loudest at first, but when it finally does, lies have nowhere left to hide. What would you have done if your own child tried to convince the world you were losing your mind? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who believes family should be built on honesty, not manipulation. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Family Betrayal for more unforgettable stories about trust, justice, and the strength to stand back up after the people closest to you let you down.